So firstly, thank you so much, Vikas, for the introduction, and Kanchan for calling me. And I just want to say that it is a pleasure to be part of the discussion, and I'm excited to share some of my experiences with all of you. As Vikas said, I've been working in the space of data science, AI, machine learning for a good part of the last 2 decades, and have worked with a wide variety of sort of problem statements in companies across geographies. And that's what I will sort of use to share some perspectives today. In the 20 minutes, Sankalp, that you've given me, what I will do is I will start with just a quick word on understanding artificial intelligence, because it means different things to different people, and we should just come to the same page on it. Then I want to share a few real life applications, just make it a little bit more real for the people. And then finally, I will just spend a couple of minutes on if people are interested in starting their own journeys, on the AI side, then what are some of the things that they could probably think of? The key objective, hopefully, is to convey the urgent need for you, all of you as business people, to understand, adopt, and embrace AI as much as you can. So, hopefully that will be the takeaway. So let's start. Let's talk a little bit about artificial intelligence first. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, from mundane process automation on one side to Arnold Schwarzenegger and Terminator on the other end. So it's important to understand what really is the heart and soul of AI, and what it means to the world in general and businesses in particular. And as I'm sure all of you would agree, the world around us has been changing dramatically. And the pace of that change has been extremely mind-boggling. A good analogy is the Industrial Revolution. I always talk about the Industrial Revolution. And I'm sure most of you would remember reading about it. Back in the 1700s, 1800s, there was a massive transition to new manufacturing processes driven by technological advances across a host of things. Power looms changed textile industry, for example. Steam engine changed transportation, industrial production, and so on. And the Industrial Revolution marks a major turning point in human history. And today we are at the cusp of what I call the AI revolution, which I personally believe is going to be probably much larger in scope and implications than even the Industrial Revolution was. In India specifically, we are probably at the very precipice, like we are just about to get into the thick of things, and about to dive into unprecedented disruption. And the faster and better, each of us individually, sort of, particularly people who are running businesses, prepare ourselves, I think the more likely we would be to get ahead of competition as we get into this new phase. So what really is AI? At its core, it's one thing. It's the coming together of man, or to be gender sensitive, woman, and machine. And it is the field of infusing machines with intelligence to enable them to assist humans in making better decisions. That's the core of AI. Getting machines to help you make better decisions in whatever you are doing. I'll take one example. It's my favorite example to explain this, when I say better decisions. So chess is something which is a very, very elegant problem as far as machine learning is concerned. There are billions of permutations and combinations that everyone, one has to think of, a player has to think of before they move. So back in the 90s, IBM built this, and some of you may have heard of it, built this machine called Deep Blue, which was built to play chess. And they then challenged the then reigning world champion, who was Gary Kasparov. Can you hear me okay? I just want to make sure that...
Yes,
okay.
We can hear.
So it was Gary Kasparov. So there was a match that happened between Deep Blue and Gary Kasparov. Gary Kasparov won. But after that, what IBM did was they went back and they made a bigger, better machine. And the next year they challenged him again. And this time Kasparov lost. So that is, it seems like a trivial story, but to me, that is really where machine intelligence was truly born. And it proved itself to be superior to human intelligence. So, a large sort of turning point there. And just a quick sort of interesting snippet. This is a graph which shows the ELO rating. This is the chess rating that the Global FIDE organization does. If you see from 1996 is when the first match happened. Kasparov's, there's one line for Kasparov, there's average human chess player, and look at the machine intelligence line. What is incredible is not just that it is ahead, but also the pace at which that is moving sort of over the human intelligence. So, something which to mull over. I think what this means to you and me is, how do we harness this, great machine power that has been unleashed within our organizations and our workplace? So what is driving the AI revolution? Why is this happening? Why is it so important to talk about it right now? There are three fundamental changes at the center of all of this. The first one is that there has been an explosive growth in the pace at which data is being generated and used. And you would be seeing this all around you. I want to share two statistics with you. First is that more data has been created in the last 2 years than for the entire human history before that. So that's just imagine the pace at which data is being generated. Similarly, if you talk about businesses alone, just organizations, the volume of business data worldwide across all companies over the last few years has been doubling every single year. So again, and when I say data, I mean everything. I mean, your whatever you are doing, and today data is numbers, obviously, but also voice, text, images, everything that you're doing, Internet of Things. So it has been increasing at a great pace. The other driver of this is that there has been very, very, very rapid advances in technology. And I'll give you two examples of this. Most of you would remember the times when storage used to be, you would have heard of things like mainframes, etc., right? IBM used to have the mainframe. Mainframe was a multi-story building where they would have this humongous machine, which literally would have maybe 100th of the storage that we carry in our pockets in our phones right now. So again, imagine the change in and storage is one example. Similarly, changes in processing power of computers, changes in things like RAM, all of those things. So technology has been changing very, very rapidly. Cloud storage has come in, which has changed things. And finally, there have been giant leaps that have been made in the field of data modeling, in using machines to solve complex problems. Deep Blue was one example of it. In the last few years, the best brains across the globe have started focusing on how machines can be made more powerful to solve real-world problems. Or, in other words, AI has become mainstream. It's no longer a subject of research in the, in the universities. It is mainstream. People are working on it every day, day in and day out. Another interesting statistic is I was looking at in the US PhD enrollments. And it is quite staggering to know that the number of people who are enrolling for artificial intelligence related fields for PhDs is, I think, half of all the PhDs in US over the last few years. So again, that tells you how, the focus that this field is getting. With these three changes, data explosion, improvements in technology, and evolution of machine intelligence, we are at the threshold of, as I said, a new world order, where businesses basically don't no longer have the choice of ignoring it. You have to understand it, you have to embrace it, and see how you can use it best. So how can adopting AI help you? There are again, I would say three things which happen, and this is just to sort of break it down, because AI in general is, without getting into too much technicality, is just decisions. But what it really means? First, democratizing what I call intelligent data. And what I mean by intelligent data is not just mounds and mounds of data. Everybody has, you would have a lot of data, but it doesn't mean anything unless you have some insights coming from it. By democratizing that, what I mean is that every individual in your organization, if they have access to the right data at the right time, imagine, how much more empowered they would be. So that's number one. Number two, once they have that empowerment, it is better decision making. Everything from whether it is a customer help desk, which where a call comes and the person who answers that call has all the information about that customer calling in, what they're likely to know, like, dislike, have a problem with it, etc., etc. The entire process of complaints resolution, for example, would be much better. So, and I'm taking one example, but this is true for anything. Manufacturing, if if you have better data, you can take better decisions. HR, as Ritesh was talking about, better data, better decisions around talent, etc., etc. And finally, which is obviously important, cost. So everything is faster, better, cheaper. Once you embed AI as a cornerstone of how you're doing things, because not just because productivity increases, but also because, as I said, the ROI on your decisions is that much higher. So these are the three things. This is the reason I wanted to talk about this, is because, again, to just talk about the fact that it is not just a fad. AI is not a fad. There are real impact. There is real benefits of considering getting some of these sort of capabilities within your organization. Then I want to talk about some examples of, actually, before I even go to examples, the problem statements for organizations have not changed. I'm not going to talk about some applications, have not changed. Depending on the sector you're looking at, the challenges remain the same. Businesses want to increase their revenue, they want to decrease their costs, they want to increase their productivity, they want to make better decisions, they want to manage their customers better, etc. What changes, though, is that these can be now looked at differently with the amount of data that they have and the ability to use machines. One question that I'm often asked is it relevant for me? So that's what I'm going to try to answer here. Who is it relevant for? Size doesn't matter. So whether you're a large corporate, I've done most of my work with very, very large companies, but I've also done work with very small entrepreneurs who are looking at how they can leverage data for something as simple as just customer acquisition. Because if you're a tech entrepreneur, that's the field, that's the space that I focus on. If you're a tech entrepreneur, you've just come out with a product. How do you use data information to get customers? That's one example. But the point being, whether you're a large corporate or you are a small medium enterprise, it is relevant. Similarly, all industries, whether you are government, healthcare, financial services, retail, technology, whatever it might be, there can be applications for what you can do with data and AI. And finally, all functions, whether it is procurement, marketing, etc., etc. So let me, here is where I want to take a few examples, and I'm going to start with taking examples for functions first. So let me start with one of the easiest to understand, which is marketing. So what is the core role of marketing? Core role of marketing is to get customers, get new customers, to ensure that the engagement with these customers is effective and efficient, that the customers have stickiness, and that the customers are not attriting or churning, right? This is some of the things that a marketing organization, a marketing function will need to do. Let me now give an example of a couple of things that you would be familiar with to show you how some of the organizations are using this. So all of you, I'm sure, use Amazon. All of you, or Flipkart or whatever. All of you, I'm sure, watch movies on Netflix. These are two examples that I can talk about. So if you think about, let's start with Netflix. If you think about Netflix, when you watch something, there is a list of things that it will show you as, here is what else you might be interested in. And more often than not, it will be actually quite in line with what you would be interested in. So what they have, I would say maybe tens of thousands of different, maybe even hundreds of thousands of different pieces of content that they have. How can they make their product sticky for you? By ensuring that you don't have to go through all of that and then lose interest in the middle and then sort of just drop off. Instead, what are they doing? They are showing you the 10 things that you are most likely to look at, so that you don't have to use your mind too much. You just know, okay, this is what, and that's how the stickiness is built. Amazon is similar. Amazon gives these recommendations for what you are likely to buy, and very honestly, I think Amazon recommendations for me seem to be so accurate. And I'm sure it is the case for you guys. So what is it doing at the back end? Just to get into a little bit of what's happening under the hood, What is Amazon doing? Amazon is looking at your buying patterns. What have you bought in the past? What sort of price range have you bought for? What sort of items, what sort of things have you looked for? Not just bought, what sort of things have you searched, etc. What Amazon also has is your profile. So it knows for based on your spending pattern, based on your city, based on, some of the other things, what sort of like persona, your customer persona you are. So what they can do at the back end is a few things. They run a recommendation engine, but what they can do is they can map that, Shamli is a lot like Rena, for example, and Rena spent on this. So let me recommend this, the same thing to Shamli. Or Shamli has spent on, these kind of books in the past, and therefore let me, so based on historical trends, based on other people who are like you, etc., is how they run their recommendation engine. And they're constantly sort of making it better. I'm giving this example because this is, while I'm talking of large companies, the same thing is very relevant. The smaller companies today are doing exactly the same thing. So recommendation engines are very, very mainstream. So that's example of marketing. Let me give one more example, maybe of procurement, because again, it would be relevant for everybody. What is procurement? Procurement is buying, all of you are buying things for your businesses. And sometimes it's a lot of things. And again, it becomes the inefficiency in procurement comes because of data asymmetry. Buyers have some information, sellers have probably more information. You also probably don't have a good view of everything that is happening across time, across, whatever you're purchasing. Now think of the ability to bring all of the data, all of your procurement data over the last 2 years together. Okay. And this doesn't, the beauty of this is it doesn't mean that you need to have complex, data capture ERP systems. You might have today, you might have, written invoices, and even that data can be extracted and used. So you get all of this data together, and you have suddenly, so much information. You will suddenly be able to, this item I was buying at this rate, and suddenly it has gone up. Or this item, same item I'm buying from 5 different suppliers, and one supplier is giving me a better rate than anyone else, or giving me a better payment term than anyone else, etc. So what happens for your procurement folks is that, again, they can make better decisions. They can pick the right supplier, they can pick the right items, they can pick the right prices much more efficiently than just based on human judgment. So that's a couple of examples. I mean, I can go into more examples, but maybe I'll, in the interest of time, if you have questions on specific ones, we'll cover it then. Let me move to starting your own AI journey. So, and I'll close with this, and then we can have more of a Q&A. So I want to give a few quick pointers on what you can do now, like today, to start your own journeys of AI adoption. First and foremost, it is extremely critical that embedding AI becomes a cornerstone of your strategic roadmap. It can't just be another sort of sub-bullet in a long list of things that you intend to do. It needs to be front and center with significant leadership focus and adequate investments committed to it. The time to do sort of half-hearted or token attempts, I think, is over. If one wants to do it, they have to do it properly, not just as another, let me also try this. Secondly, AI adoption requires the right talent, the right skill set. So companies need to build and nurture a team to execute on their AI adoption plans. Now, when I say team, I do not mean that you need to have, massive number of people turning these things, turning data for you. Even if you just get 1 or 2 people who understand this, who can help you take the right decisions, or make the right strategy as far as leveraging data, leveraging AI, leveraging analytics is concerned, it'll be a great start. But you need to get the right skill set. You can't because it is a field which requires understanding. Which brings me to the third point, which is utilize experts. Just like any other sophisticated technology, there's a lot of depth and breadth that needs to be assessed and evaluated for every unique need as far as AI adoption is concerned. And therefore, doing everything in-house may be, a recipe for disaster. So seek out experts that can be partners in this journey as, advisors. There are many technology companies that do this, that provide parts of solutions. The recommendation engine that I was talking about, there are many companies that just provide that. And, you can consider going for that rather than it is not something that you need to build in-house. There are components available depending on how you make your strategic roadmap. It is very possible to do it much more cost effectively by drawing on those components rather than trying to do everything in-house. And by the way, this is how all the large companies across the globe also do it. And that brings me to the last point, which is learn from global models. Some of the more developed countries have been on this path for well over a decade now, and they have adoption models which are tried and tested. So for India, I think is on the maturity curve a little bit behind some of the Western countries. When I say maturity curve, I mean the AI adoption maturity curve. So for India, there's an opportunity to learn from what is happening or what has happened in the in other countries, which is a great thing because there's no need to reinvent the wheel. There is the ability to sort of just learn from that, and again, as I said, this is not something which needs to be for large companies. AI adoption in US, Europe, etc., has been there for all companies, all sizes, all industries. So there are models out there that can be looked at, that can be leveraged, and you don't need to sort of start from scratch. So yeah, that's what I had. I think I did my 20 minutes. I had in terms of what I wanted.